Representative Hamadeh, you are recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a veteran myself, and I also serve on the Armed Services and Veteran Affairs Committee, and this program, I've been through it as a former Army reservist. When I was getting off my deployment of 14 months, I didn't find it all that useful, especially because I was a reservist going back to my civilian job. So I think we got to have some common sense in a lot of this policies. But we also need personalization. And I want to first ask my question to you, Mr. Loomis. Your Arizona-based company, TurboVets, aims to make TAP technology driven and personalized. Now, one complaint I consistently hear is that the TAP program feels like a one-size-fits-all checkbox. So, and you've spoken about customization, and in your view, what steps could the DoD and VA take to make it a little bit more personalized?
Thank you, Congressman. The personalization comes from the individuality of the person that's going through TAP. That includes their upbringing, their service connective services that they did, their career that they did in the military, their desires, their interests. TAP needs to be built on what their inadequacies are and what their goals are. More specifically, that changes by the individual. So the individual, that's the problem, but with AI today and the ability to consume lots of data and being able to build a roadmap, we like to build a custom curriculum per individual that specifically focuses on 5-year goals, what their career in the military was, what their weak points are, what their strengths are, so that they can have good job placement, but they can also work on what they're struggling with. If they've got weak financial viability, they need to have put together a program about budgeting, financial saving, credit repair. All of these things are required prior to discharge. If you try to get an apartment or a home after military service and you've got bad credit, that's going to be a real problem. And so that's the goal of financial literacy is a very, very strong component to individualizing everybody's transition.
Yeah, I like that. I think a lot of the innovation comes to the private sector, so keep it up. And another question, Mr. Loomis, I'm also concerned about the classroom approach and how it fails to resonate with a lot of the transitioning service members. How do we bridge that civilian-military gap, and what would a technology-enabled TAP program actually look like on the ground?
So on the ground, thank you, Congressman, for the additional question. On the ground, it's more about partnerships. So we're working with the Medal of Honor Museum in Arlington, Texas. We're working with popular podcasters that are out there, Mr. Ryan, who is obviously a Navy SEAL as well, to really personalize the experience where these are service members talking to future veterans. That connectivity of personalizing it, digital learning is different today than it was 25 years ago. People are looking at 5-minute clips of video to gather and consume the data rather than reading a chapter of a book. And so you have to kind of keep up with time. So on the ground, it's about building that digital platform to be able to have, one, the content that is changing to the market. We cannot sell and teach based on PowerPoint anymore. People will lose their attention. They'll be thinking about what they want to do tomorrow. So more importantly, it's about staying relevant with data and then obviously good stakeholders, human effect. We don't need AI teaching everybody everything. We really need to have good content from video creators and obviously social media platforms.
Very good. And Ms. Burgess, I got a question for you. In your testimony, you mentioned that a majority of the potential employers believe that veterans need more training or additional education on soft skills before they are ready to maintain a career in the civilian sector. Can you elaborate on that and how we can better prepare the soft skills aspect of it?
Sure, thank you for the question. Essentially, it comes down to translating the skills that they had in the military into more civilian speak. So communication skills is often considered the first or most principle of this in terms of how do you do an interview, how do you present yourself in an interview, in a civilian interview, elaborate about your personal characteristics and what you bring to an employment location.
Very good. I know there's a lot of foreign investments coming to the United States, and every single one of these companies that have met with me, I encourage them to hire Americans and hire veterans specifically, because there's always, they always mention the challenge of our workforce, but I know the veterans are the hardest workers. As the chairman said earlier, they show up on time, they're disciplined, and I think they make the best employees. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.